Welcome to Monster Territory, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by Fox One. How you doing, everybody? Hope you all had a great weekend. I'm actually watching the Blue Jays and the Mariners as we speak. George Springer with a home run for the ages. Holy cow. I mean, we had Jose Bautista, 10 years ago with that home run and the incredible bat flip, and then you just got this from George Springer. Unbelievable. But the show must go on. I mean, listen, we're not talking Blue Jays here. We're talking Sox. And, pretty slow news period here over the last week or so. Obviously, we're still in the middle of the postseason. Got the World Series coming up here. So we're kind of just waiting for this all to go by. So really for today, I'm just going to answer a few questions, doing a bit of a mailbag episode here. But we do have one little bit of news on Rob Refsnyder. I'll get to that in just a little bit. Everybody, if you can, hit that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new. And thank you to all the new subscribers here on Monster Territory. The last couple of episodes, or the last episode and the last video that I just dropped, we got about 100 new subscribers. So if you're tuning in for the first time, thank you for joining. Everybody, let's get to it here. Again, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. Let's get to the little bit of news here on Rob Refsnyder. And hey, we all know how vital Refsnyder was this past year. The guy demolished lefties. Him and Romy Gonzalez, they were absolutely phenomenal. And, there was a bit of a question mark with Refsnyder. Was he even going to play next year? There have been talks, maybe he could retire. But we do have a little bit of news here. Alex Spear of the Boston Globe saying that Refsnyder does intend to play in 2026, and he's already had informal talks with Boston about the possibility of a return. Now, when it comes to Rob Refsnyder, like I said, hits the lefties very well. And this is a guy that has just simply been very productive for the Red Sox over the last couple of years. And I would actually say one of the clubhouse leaders for the Red Sox as well. Just a good, solid team player to have there. And overall this past year, again, was productive. Hit 269, had a 354 on base, a 484 on the slugging, 9 homers, a 1.2 fWAR overall, a 131 OPS plus. Again, mostly against left-handed pitching. But to me, I think it makes a lot of sense to bring Refsnyder back into the fold. He's been a big part of the team over the last couple of years. Again, brings you that production against the lefties. And with Cora, he likes having guys like this at his disposal to, have those matchups, right? Especially when you get later in the games. If a lefty comes in, you can bring in Refsnyder, or if you start Refsnyder, you can have those platoon matchups, especially late in games. And I think that's so vital in today's game as well. So Refsnyder, hopefully, for me at least, I do hope he comes back. I think it's more than just being able to hit lefties. I think he just brings just a good, solid player to the team overall, both on the field and off the field as well. But let's get to the mailbag segment, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what ends up happening with that. And we got a few questions here. Not a whole lot here tonight, but we got some good ones here. Let's get to the first one here, shall we? From Connor Stubbs on Twitter. And we will be doing mailbag episodes throughout the offseason, so do stay tuned. Go follow me on Twitter. That way you know when I post anything for mailbag segments. And I'm also just active on Twitter anyway. So, from Connor Stubbs, who do you think the Red Sox will sign this offseason or trade for? Because I feel like there's 3 guys they could really go after, and that is Schwarber, Alonso, Joe Ryan, and maybe others. Now, I will be coming out with my predictions eventually here at some point in the next week or so. Still deciding what my Red Sox offseason predictions are going to be. But I feel like I have a good idea of what they're going to look to accomplish. And I don't know, based on all my years of following the offseason for the Red Sox, I got a feeling they're going to be able to get a couple of things done, a couple of certain things. And one of them is adding a power bat, right? That's obviously a big need for this team. 15th in home runs this past year. The cleanup spot for the Red Sox this year ranked second to last overall when it came to WRC+. They clearly need a guy in the middle of the order. And Sam Kennedy, he actually went on 3-10 to left with Tom Caron on Nesson. And he said that as well, right? They're going to be looking for a middle of the order bat. We've talked about this ad nauseum. Pete Alonso, I think, just checks off all the boxes, right? Obviously, he brings that power from the right side. He can play at first base. Maybe not great defensively, but with DH, who knows what's going to happen there? Is Massa going to end up getting moved? I'm not so sure what's going to happen there. But with Alonso, he brings you that right-handed bat. So even if you end up keeping Massa, right, you can still kind of work the righty-lefties there within the DH spot, rotate guys in and out, whatever it may be. So Alonso, he's a good fit on paper, obviously with the power, but being the righty bat as well. And overall, a great season, hitting 272, 347 on base, 524 on the slugging, a 141 WRC plus, 38 home runs. Also hits very well with runners in scoring position. I think with Alonso, again, he checks off a lot of boxes, not just the performance, but also hitting well with runners in scoring position. Also playing great in a big market in New York. So I think he's going to be able to handle Boston. I think he makes a lot of sense. It's going to come down to the dollars, but if there's ever a time for the Red Sox to... They did it last offseason with Bregman. Granted, it was a short deal. Hopefully they get that worked out here. But if there's ever a time to get aggressive for a guy that you're bringing in for a longer contract, I think Alonso is that guy. And sure, maybe first base isn't quite going to be, the long-term home, maybe more DH, but still, I think you can kind of bounce back and forth with Alonso there. I think he just makes too much sense. Now, Schwarber, I think it really just depends what's going to happen with Massa. If they end up moving Massa, then I think Schwarber returning could make a lot of sense. You're going to get a ton of power, 56 home runs this past year, and with Schwarber, obviously, having that experience in Boston helped them get to the ALCS back in 2021. He checks off a lot of boxes as well. But again, you got to kind of figure out what's going to happen with Massa there. So there is that little bit of a roadblock. And then, obviously, the Phillies themselves, Dave Dombrowski, they're going to do whatever they can to keep this guy in the fold. He means a lot to the organization. He's been great for the fan base there. Obviously a great fit in the clubhouse. He's a clubhouse leader. Schwarber, it makes a lot of sense for him to stay with the Phillies. So that's honestly, right now, if you're asking what my gut feeling is, I feel like that's probably what's going to end up happening with Schwarber. We'll see, but he is an option. At the end of the day, it comes down to the dollars. Let's see what ends up happening. Now, some fallback options. I've talked about this as well. Eugenio Suarez. I'm not a big fan of the bat. The overall bat, right? The low batting average, low on base percentage, but he gets a lot of power here from the right side. 49 home runs this past year, a 526 on the slugging, a 125 WRC plus. I feel like, to me, he's really like a plan C. If you're not able to bring in Alonso, if Schwarber's off the table, that's when I think you should go to Suarez. The advantage there from a financial point of view is it won't be a long-term deal. So but really, other than that, I'm not a big fan of the high strikeouts that he has. He doesn't get on base enough for me. Sure, some power there from the right side of Fenway Park, that's fun. But, with the Red Sox this year, strikeouts were a bit of an issue. I don't know. He's not exactly at the top of my list. There's also a wild card option. Munetaka Murakami, we've talked about him. And we also just got report today, in the last couple of days, actually, that Kazuma Okamoto from Japan as well. He's been a very good hitter over in Japan for a while now. Has good versatility, plays first, third, can play some outfield as well. But while it was looking like he was going to get posted, or that was the expectation, it looks like he's not going to get posted according to reports. I haven't talked about him much on this channel, but I did make a post about him this past weekend on social media. I was thinking that's a guy, bring him in, a guy that can hit from the right side, and he pulls the ball a lot. And I thought he could have been a good fit at Fenway Park. But Kazuma Okamoto, probably not going to be happening. So now the attention goes to Munetaka Murakami. So with him, probably more of a first baseman moving forward. If Bregman doesn't come back, yes, he could be an option at third base, but the defense there isn't amazing overall. He's probably more of a first baseman moving forward, along with being a DH. So with Murakami, he hits a lot of dingers, right? Set the single season record in Japan for a Japanese-born player for home runs in a single season with 56 back in 2022 at only 22 years old. That's absolutely diabolical. But Murakami, with the power that he has, the batted ball profile that he has, I think there is going to be some interest from the Red Sox. I just wonder how far they would be willing to go. When it comes to the Red Sox over the years, they have valued a bit more of that hit overpower, right? They do obviously love a good batted ball profile, but they like guys that, can really work the counts, that limit the strikeouts as much as possible. Well, with Murakami, he has a very high strikeout rate in Japan, almost 30% over the last couple of years here, over the last few years. So I wonder if that's going to be a bit of a concern for them. I'm sure they would love that power that he would bring to the table. And obviously, just great batted ball metrics as well. Tons of exit velo from him. Again, I think there will be interest. I just wonder how far they'll go, right? Bat from the left side. Obviously, with the Green Monster at Fenway Park, you would love to be able to bring in a nice power-hitting righty into the fold. With Murakami, not as big of a deal, right? Left side, that power are absolutely clear at Fenway Park there, despite, even though he's a lefty. But with Murakami, I definitely think he'll be there. I just wonder how far the Red Sox will go. We'll see. Now, when it comes to the pitching point of view, I think you're going to make a trade. I feel like that's the way they're going to go. When it comes to the free agent options, you got Dylan Cease, you got Framber Valdez, you got some lower tier options, someone like Shane Bieber they were interested in. I just think the Red Sox, they're set up very well to make a trade. Joe Ryan, I just simply think he seems to be the guy that makes the most sense from a trade partner point of view, from a production point of view. Now, Hunter Green, I think Hunter Green would be awesome if they could get him. The Reds, they need more offense. I think a trade does line up very well. Jaron Duran, Wilyer Abreu, one of those guys. It'd be interesting to see what happens with one of them. I just wonder, Green, he's very good. It's going to take a lot to get him. I just wonder, or will the Red Sox be able to meet the asking price for Hunter Green? We'll see. I mean, they definitely have a couple of guys to start off a trade with Duran or Wilyer, right? Throwing some prospects. I think you could get a deal done. But if the Red Sox are wanting to keep as much major league talent as possible, if they want to keep Duran and Wilyer in the fold, and I think there's a world where you can do that. I think you'd have to figure out what to do with Massa. I think you could do it, but with Ryan, I don't think you necessarily have to give up major league talent. You could, right? But the Red Sox, I think, could pull off a deal like they did with Crochet. Obviously, they got some good pitching prospects, Peyton Tolley, Connolly Early. I would love to keep both, but I would imagine the Twins would want at least one of those guys back. Remember, it takes two to tango when it comes to a trade. And they do have some bats that they could send back. Someone like Yostinson Garcia, they could do something with him as well in that kind of a trade. Franklin Arias. It depends on what the Twins want. I would imagine they would want some pitching back in return. It really just comes down to, who is going to be the team that matches up with the Red Sox well in a trade. I think you could pull it off for either Ryan or Green. Right now, as I'm sitting here, I feel better about a Joe Ryan trade. But then again, I won't count out something for Hunter Green if the Reds would like Duran or Wilyer. We'll see. Also won't count something out for Mackenzie Gore. The Nationals right now, obviously bringing in Paul Tabani, old assistant GM for the Red Sox. Also just brought in Devin Pearson as well. My goodness, the Nationals. They're just gutting the Red Sox farm system. But Mackenzie Gore, I think, is an interesting option as well. Because the Nationals, they're kind of in this weird limbo spot. Anytime you bring in new guys to run the front office, there seems to be a bit of an evaluation period usually. And I wonder how much are the Nationals really going to do this coming offseason? Do they kind of stand pat, maybe make a couple of smaller moves and kind of go from there? Or do they try to reset things a little bit here for the next couple of years, trade Gore now, bring back some good value, and then they go from there? I'm not sure what the Nationals' plan is going to be, but obviously Tabani knows the Red Sox system very well, obviously. So I wonder if a trade could happen. We'll see. Gore, he didn't have a great second half. He had some injuries as well. I think he could maybe be an option. Maybe. But that's kind of how I'm thinking right now. I'm not dead set on a prediction for specific players, but I think they're going to add power in some way, shape, or form. And I do think they're going to add an arm. And I'll say it's going to be via trade compared to free agency. And another reason I do feel like the Red Sox are going to make these moves is because they've shown it time and time again over the years. Ever since John Henry took over the team, back in the early 2000s. Anytime they're just entering a competitive window or they're in a competitive window, they've always shown that aggressiveness. It's been there. Now, when they're out of contention or if they feel like the farm system isn't really in a great place, they kind of tend to sit back a little bit more, right? But you go back to those years, obviously going into, 2003, 2004, they made those moves, right, to put that team in the position that eventually broke the curse in 2004. 2007, right, coming off a down year in 06, but they had young talent coming up. Pedroia, Papelbon, Ellsbury as well. So they went out there and made big moves, right? Dice K, J.D. Drew, Julio Luga, right? Hideki Okajima, right? Bringing in guys to really fortify that roster. 2013, obviously had a bad couple of years, ending of 2011, 2012, obviously Bobby Valentine. But 2013, they still had a good core, some other young players as well. And they went out there and made a lot of moves like Napoli, Victorino, Johnny Gomes, Steven Drew. You go back 2016, they finally made it to the postseason, bringing in David Price, but they had a pretty quick exit that postseason. And then 2017, they go out, they bring in Chris Sale, right? And then they add one more, JD Martinez, the next year. So they've shown it time and time again, that aggressiveness when they're entering a competitive window or when they're in one, right? I think they're going to make the moves, and especially now that Rafael Devers is no longer on the payroll, there's no reason to not spend this coming offseason. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. It's kind of where I'm at. Hey, my opinions could change tomorrow morning, all right? I could go take a nice nap tomorrow, and I could think, oh, you know what? I think I like this idea better. But that's how I'm thinking right now. But thank you for the question. We're going to do a couple more here, but we do have a couple of words from our sponsors tonight. I'll be right back.
For all you parents out there like me with teenagers trying to already keep a million things under control, Cash App is here to help us make sure your teens' money and their spending isn't adding up to craziness.
With the Cash App card available to teens 13 to 17 with sponsorship by an eligible parent or guardian, every transaction triggers a real-time notification for you to see, empowering your teen to practice independence while giving you peace of mind by keeping track of their spending. You can also manage everything directly from your own Cash App account without having to switch between the two. With the Cash App card, you and your teen's balances receive 24/7 fraud monitoring, and if something ever feels off, you have the ability to lock their card right from your phone in just one tap. If you're ready to give your teen more independence while staying in the loop, start by downloading Cash App and setting up their account today. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use code FAMILY10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Direct deposit and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cashapp.app/legal/podcast for full disclosure.
Alrighty, let's get to the next one here from Braden Burbank. Thank you, my friend. If the Red Sox sign Alonso and trade for Joe Ryan, is that enough for a World Series ring back to Boston? If not, what will? I'll be honest. I mean, yes. Hey, making great moves like that's obviously going to help. But there's going to be a couple other things the Red Sox are going to have to shore up. The one being the infield defense. What's going to happen with this infield here? What's the alignment, right? Hopefully Bregman comes back and he's at third base. Story, is he coming back? I feel like he's going to. That's kind of the gut feeling I have as of right now. We'll see, right? Either way, Marcelo Meyer, I think is going to have a big role when it comes to this infield. This is a big offseason for Meyer, right? Meyer needs to go out there this offseason, get himself in 162 game shape. He's had a lot of injuries over the years since getting drafted. The durability has been an issue with him. He's had stuff with his wrist this past year, low back issues. He needs to get himself right, needs to put a bit more muscle onto the frame to where he can handle the rigors of a full season. If so, we all saw the defense that he brought to the table. Second base, I think, would be a great home for him this coming year. And then Trevor Story, if he opts back in a couple more years, then Meyer, he's your shortstop in the next year or two, right? I think there's an argument for Story to be the second baseman based off the metrics. And that's another thing I think you got to consider as well. The infield defense when it comes to the Red Sox, is it better off, if Story comes back, is it better off for Story to be at second base? we'll see what happens there. Either way, Meyer definitely needs to be in this infield. That is going to help. I think the best alignment would be Meyer at short and Story at second base. That's a different conversation. There's seniority that goes into that. I think that's something that you would have to have a conversation about that, right? But with Story, if that conversation did happen, the team player that he is, I could see him maybe making that move over to second base. But again, who knows? You got to have Story come back first, right? Either way, the infield defense, it did not rank well this past year. And that is something that they're going to have to shore up. So that's a under the radar kind of a need that the Red Sox have to address. You don't necessarily go out there and go sign someone or trade for someone to improve that. You already have that in-house, but they're going to have to figure that out. And the Blue Jays are going back to the World Series. My goodness. Wow. The Toronto Blue Jays. George Springer. Man, oh man. Crazy, crazy. Anyway, yes, adding Joe Ryan or someone of that caliber behind Garrett Crochet, I think makes a ton of sense. I also think the Red Sox are going to have to figure out what's the lefty situation in the bullpen. Justin Wilson, is he coming back? I'm not so sure. They're going to have to figure that out there. Great bullpen this past year. I don't think they necessarily need to do anything crazy. However, listen, sure, great year this past year, but you got to keep that going as well. So are they going to add anything to really keep things going? They do have a lot of depth, though. All right, don't forget Carter Crawford, Patrick Sandoval. They should be back next year. Peyton Tolley, Connolly Early, if both of them are back, they're going to have roles. So you have a lot of pitching depth within the organization. So I'm not too worried about the bullpen, but I think they got to add a lefty there. And also another thing, too, they got to be healthy. That's another thing. Right, we just talked about Meyer, right? The durability, right? Roman Anthony, you saw what happened with this lineup when Roman Anthony went down. You saw it right in front of your eyes, right? He needs to also get himself right for 162. You need to limit the injuries. Willier, he got hurt, right? So, I mean, you just had a lot of inconsistencies there. Obviously, Casas, he went down earlier in the year. First base ended up being just kind of up in the air all year, right? You had to bring in Nathaniel Lowe eventually. So they need to stay healthy. That's the biggest thing. But that's where the offseason comes into play. And I think that's something that not a lot of people think about necessarily, right? We look at the stats. We look at what they're doing on paper, right? We look at the lineups. We come up with a rotation. But at the end of the day, these are real human beings, right? And they got to get themselves ready in the offseason. That's what the offseason's for, right? Get yourself healthy and get ready for 162 and the postseason. So, again, getting back to the question, these moves would obviously help. But there's more than that, right? We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. But, everybody, if you are watching this on Nesson, I do have to wrap it up. Right there, we are out of time on Nesson 360. But if you want to see the rest of the show, come on over to Monster Territory and see what I got to say. But everybody on Nesson, thank you for watching here, and we'll talk to you next time. But let's get back to this here over on YouTube. Here we go. Let's get to the next question. And I thought this was an interesting one. From Mike Toomey. How we doing, my friend? If Bregman walks, could you get Sonny Gray, Ivan Herrera? If you could subtract Yoshida, would you take Arenado at third base? Well, there's a lot going on here, right? I think also just thinking about the fact, too, man, if Bregman doesn't come back, then you really got to figure things out. He was such a huge add for the Red Sox last offseason. If you didn't bring in Bregman last offseason, I still think it would have been good. But because obviously you brought in guys like Crochet, but Bregman, that was a huge difference maker, right? You got to bring him back. My goodness. But if he doesn't come back, then could Arenado be an option where, somehow, some way, you maybe bring in Sonny Gray, Ivan Herrera? I'm going to say this. I don't, Chaim Bloom, obviously in the fold now in St. Louis. Would he even want to deal with the Red Sox at this point? But Sonny Gray, I don't think is necessarily a bad idea. Didn't do great when it came to, he played with the Yankees a little while back. He was so good, but then he went to the Yankees and didn't seem to mesh very well with that big market. So that's something to consider with him. Ivan Herrera, this was a guy that was popping up last offseason when it came to trade rumors, possibly. Nothing ever materialized there. And Arenado, right? I mean, could he be a replacement for Bregman? Yeah, defensively he'd be fine, but the batted ball metrics, they really worry me. Fenway Park, maybe you can get a bit of a boost, different ear or different voices in your ear. Maybe you can figure something out there. I'm not a huge fan of it. Last offseason, I was more open to it, but after another down season offensively, I just wonder, maybe a change of scenery could help him out. Maybe there's also just the mental factor where the Cardinals just, he went, so when he first went to St. Louis, they were a competitive team, right? But the last couple of years, not so much. So I wonder if a change of scenery could help him. I'm not sure if I'm really willing to do it. Personally, this would not be my option. I mean, to me, if Bregman leaves, I'm really going to shore up first base. I'm going to do everything I can to bring in Alonso. I'd even go for Murakami out there. I know I don't like the strikeouts very much, but I'm looking at how could I improve at first base? How could I maybe get some more power at DH? Could you revisit maybe a trade for someone like Alec Boehm on the Phillies? Something like that. Obviously Bregman I think is the best option out of all of it. But if he does leave, that's what I'm doing. I'm going sorry to use the term full throttle, but I'm getting Alonso at that point. Sonny Gray, again, I don't know if I just remember what he did with the Yankees. It just didn't fit very well. I just wonder how Boston would be for him. I'm not so sure. Yoshida, I've already said this. He's going to be a big question mark for this offseason. I think there's a path for him to come back because he did look good in September and he's healthy now. And he probably could play a little bit more in the outfield. It's just going to be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up leaving either. So we will see. But let's get to the final question here for tonight. And a bit of a crazy one. This is not going to take very long to answer. Before I do, though, one more word from our sponsor. I'll be right back. October baseball is here. The pressure's on, the lights are brighter, and DraftKings Sportsbook delivers the intensity of October with player props and odds that can change as fast as a ball flying over the fence. For new customers right now, you can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. So go ahead and download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, pass-through of per-wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Alrighty, final question of the night. Man, oh man, this is a crazy one. I don't think it happens though. But from Pablo, Red Sox should trade for Ronald Acuna Jr. What would it take? I don't think Ronald Acuna Jr. is going anywhere. I don't see that happening. Absolutely not. We keep seeing MLB Network. They keep trying to put it out there. I'm not sure why. The Braves, this is a team that is going to look to be back into contention in 2026. Would they get a lot for Acuna Jr.? Absolutely they would, right? I mean, when healthy, he's one of the top players in the game, all right? You could say he's a top 3 player in the game when he's healthy. Just an amazing season a couple of years ago, right? The 40-70 season, incredible. He's amazing. And I don't see why the Braves would move him, especially with the contract that he's under. He's not getting really paid. I mean, obviously, to us, he's getting paid a lot of money. But compared to what these other guys are making out there, he's a bargain, right? On a very team-friendly deal, has a lot of control left. Again, if the Braves, because they're going to look to bounce back in 2026, I just don't see them doing it. If there was a situation where they were not really in contention, then yeah, you could have that conversation, obviously. But they have so much talent on that roster. Get healthy, make a few moves this coming off season, then yeah, I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be right back into the mix next year. I'll always say this with Alex Anthopoulos. You never know. All right, he's always looking to make moves, and who knows? Maybe if he gets blown away with something out there, maybe. Probably not. I would say like a 0.1% chance. And I guarantee that wouldn't be the Red Sox. I mean, would that right-handed bat be amazing at Fenway Park? Absolutely it would. I mean, could you imagine how electric it would be to have Ronald Acuna Jr.? It would be amazing, but not going to happen. Not going to happen. MLB Network, you need to cut it out. Ronald Acuna Jr. isn't going anywhere. But like I always say never. At the right price, who knows? But I don't think the Braves are going to do it. So, everybody, I'm out of here. Just a pretty neat and tidy mailbag episode here today, but that's all I got here. If you can on the way out, hit the like button for me. Subscribe if you're new. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know all. I can't talk here at the end of the episode. Let me know your thoughts here down below in the comments. What are some moves you're hoping to see for this coming off season? Let me know. If you have any more questions, ask them down below. I like to look at the comments, but I'm out of here, everybody. Again, I'm going to be dropping some more videos here over the next week. I do want to release my predictions for the Red Sox this offseason at some point in the next week. I'm going to go over, really just in a quicker video format, I'm going to go over the actual needs of this team. I know we've talked about it a lot here on the podcast episodes, but I'm going to go, shorter format, kind of break it down, really look at all the options out there. So do expect that video in the next couple of days or so. I'm also going to be looking at free agent targets, trade targets. We're going to have some fun with it. But we got to get through this World Series first. We got the Blue Jays and the Dodgers coming up. Hey, congrats to the Blue Jays, man. First time going to the World Series since 1993. Man, oh man. Everybody, I'm out of here. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you next time.